Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk Tech Culture. So, in today's episode, we're going to be building a web search AI agent with one of the most powerful tools, powerful automation tools. Stay right tuned. So, if you're new to this channel, guys, kindly click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you're notified whenever there's an upload. Now, we're living through something remarkable. Yeah. A moment in history where AI is not just answering questions, it's thinking, it's searching, it's deciding. And the most exciting part is you don't have to be like a machine learning PhD holder to harness this power. You just need the right tools. But if you've been exploring AI agents, as we have been on this channel, you probably encountered some suspects like LangChain. It's powerful and flexible, but then it demands you to be comfortable with Python. Python programming and debugging chains of logic. And there's also AutoGPT, there's baby AGI. But the thing is, these are fascinating experiments and they are more of proof of concept rather than production ready tools. And then there's Microsoft Copilot, which is for the developers. Hey, these are fantastic tools, don't get me wrong. They've pushed the boundaries of what's possible. But here is the thing, they are made for you to speak their language. Okay, you think in code blocks, you think in API, you have to be debugging and stuff like that. But what if there is a different way? What if you could see your AI agent, watch it think, watch it search the web, and watch it make decisions, all laid out to you like a beautiful visual symphony of logic. This is not happening behind the scenes. You get to see it from start to finish. Enter n8n, guys. Yes, this is the tool I'm talking about, n8n. This is not just another automation tool, guys. It is a canvas of intelligence. And then all this is coming together using AI models, web searches, databases, and APIs. And these come together to form a beautiful flow of a perfect harmony. So today we're going to build something incredible. That is the web search AI agent. And this doesn't just fetch results. It understands the results it's fetching, it synthesizes, and it thinks. So we're doing all this with this one powerful tool, n8n. So let's get into the platform of n8n and start this beautiful build. Let's go. Okay, guys, so we're here. So this is the n8n platform. So we're going to first create an account and then go into the platform and start building. Now we get to create a free account, which is a 14-day period account that you can use for this. If you like it, then you can go in for the upgraded version where you make some payments. So let's start. We click get started for free. We enter our name. You can give any name you would like to. I'll just enter it as test today. And then I just give a company email. That's the email address that you're using. So my email, I will do it called. This has to be a valid email address because you're going to be using this email address to verify your account and all that. So I'm going to repeat this. I'll just fast forward this particular one just so that we know what's happening. And then I'll give it an account name. Okay, my bad. Name, I'll call it. Okay. Okay, this is good. Now we can click on this to start our 14-day period. Hi there. And she's going to ask you a bunch of questions. This we can, go through. This asterisk means that we have to, this is important. I just say only me. This is a personal account. Which team am I on? I'm on the engineering team. What this describes this? Software as a service. Okay. When did you hear about that? Let me go. Let's see. Skip. It's going to ask which apps you plan to use. So here you can select it to make your search faster. And we're going to skip this because we don't need this. It's saying invite team members. We don't need this, so we're skipping. So we should start automating. As you can see, it says your workspace is officially online. This error I'm receiving, you guys are not going to see it. It's just a problem with my Chrome. Okay, now. So now we have the interface to this. I don't like this white. I prefer a darker theme. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to click on settings and change my theme. This is my name and stuff like that. Personal. Setting my theme to dark mode. Dark theme, save. Yes, I prefer this theme, guys. For reasons best known to me. Okay, so now you can see this platform. So we're going to click on create workflow to create our workflow for this particular build. We have my workflow. I'm going to change this into web search. And then our first step is we're going to create a webhook. This webhook is where we'll test with Postman. That is like our API URL. It's going to generate our API URL in order to test this particular flow. So webhook, as you can see, starts the webflow when a webhook is called. So this is like a trigger node. In n8n terms, we call it the trigger node, the one that triggers the call of the flow. We're going to change this URL is done automatic for us, but we're going to change the path here and call it the web AI search. So as you can see, it changes here. The test URL is what allows you to come back to n8n to always click to execute a workflow. With production URL, you can simply, when you call it from Postman, you call the API from Postman, it automatically starts the workflow. So as you can see, the production URL doesn't have the test. TCP method, we're using post. We don't need any authenticator. Our response is when the last node finishes. And then this is it. We can see if this configuration is right. Yes. So it's saying listening to test event, make a post request to this particular URL. So you can click to copy it and then test it in Postman. Now we just click on stop listening so we can continue with this, with the flow. The next step is, let me move this here. The next step is we're going to add some code which allows us to, when the post is sent from Postman, we receive the data and then we process it for the next step. So here we're going to search for code. And here it says run custom JavaScript or Python code. And here we're going to be coding in JavaScript. So I select JavaScript. And here we are. Now, first of all, run once for all items. I want it to run for each item. The explanation is below. This says that run this code once, no matter how many input items are there. But I'm saying I want to run this particular code as many times as there are input items, as many times as I make calls to the API, I want it to run it. So then I'm going to add code to this. So what does this code mean? In short, when I send the request in Postman, this is the format. JSON is simply the one that receives. This is the structure of n8n. And then the content is, this is giving us the array that is received from the, when we are testing it, we understand this code better. And then the user message is found inside here, the test. That is the prompt we're passing. We can also add a conversation ID, guys, to our prompt in order for the flow to know that this particular conversation is coming from this user and all that. If we don't add it, we just ask it to add default to our conversation ID. And here our conversation history, we have the role, the user, the content, the username, and then what is returned is the JSON with the conversation ID, the user message, the query, which is also a user message. This is, I'm adding this too because at times n8n can change. Sometimes n8n can expect user message. At times too, it can expect query. So I'm just putting this two together that in case of anything, it should just pick which one it wants, user message or query. And this is history, our conversation history that we find here, and then our step count. So with here, clicking on execute step is going to just run the whole, try to start from the beginning to the next. This is good. So we just close this and we change the name here, code in JavaScript, to load memory because we're loading the data. Our settings here, we don't have anything we would like to change. So we just leave our settings on the default and then we go back to the canvas. So as you can see, the flow has started. Now, the next one is we need an HTTP post request. That is what we call the agent brain to make decisions as to what to do with the prompt it has received. Okay, and this will be calling it the agent brain. So here I'll just search for the HTTP request node. This says makes HTTP request and returns the response data. So I select this and then I have this particular interface. So here I'm going to select, I'm getting data. So this is from the load memory and then I'll be sending it to the next node. So I need to use an HTTP post method and then with a URL. So this is where we need to be using I'm going to be using this particular URL, guys. I'll explain to you the details of this URL. Okay, this is just now this particular URL. This is the URL for our Gemini API key. So as I said, when you go back to our first video on building web search AI agents with Python, you're going to find this. This is our URL that we're using, and then at the end of it is our API. At the end of it is our API. I can choose to remove this API key here and add send query parameters where I'll define it, or I can simply add my API to my URL. The decision is yours. I chose to simply just add it to my URL. If you don't want to do it like this, you can opt to doing this. Let me show you how it's done. You can opt to doing this key. Okay. You can simply the send query parameters. I'm going to use the name key and then I'll pass my value here. So here, I'll just remove this and equal sign. It's the same thing, guys. It's the same thing. We're using fields below. So this key is simply the query parameters and then the value here is our API from Gemini. So if you want the API, a Gemini API, please go back to the video as I keep repeating so that you get to see the steps in which we go through to get this Gemini API. So this HTTP request is simply saying it got the prompt from the postman. The load memory defines it in a JSON format and then it passes it to Gemini to process it. So we're going to call this HTTP request our agent's brain. This is where the thinking is going to happen in our agent's brain. And then it's going to craft a decision-making prompt for our agent and then move it to the next stage. Okay, so this is the place where the agent decides what tools should I use in order to process this particular prompt. Now, in our normal chatbot, you send a request to the chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini, you send it to it and it gives you a response. Using AI agents are goal-oriented. So when they receive the prompt, they don't just give you a response. Based on your prompt, they decide, should I go search the web for this particular prompt? Should I use a calculator if it's a mathematical, prompt? Or should I go into my memory, the data that I was trained on, and then give a response from there? So that is the power of an AI agent, its ability to make decisions because it has a goal to achieve. Okay, so then with here, we're good to go. Yeah, we can execute the step here, but that's not necessary. I want us to finish everything. If we have any errors, we'll eventually see it. Not to worry. Yeah. When I click on execute, let's see, it says I'm waiting to execute, blah, 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 and all that. So since when we've not started the flow, we can just ignore this and go back. I think I made a mistake of selecting patch. No, this was selected post. This is a post method. We have our URL. We're not adding any authentications to it. Then our body, we select send body. And here we have JSON. Should it go in JSON? I'll select raw because I want to put my data there. And then my type is application/JSON. I select this here. And then my body, I want it to be an expression. As you can see, there's an arrow here. I'm going to click on this to see it on a larger scale. Okay, so this is also one of the linguas of n8n. I won't say n8n has its own language. It's using JavaScript here, but in a special format. So these brackets, if you're you know about Angular, it's a framework, one of JavaScript's framework. Angular uses these type of, braces in order to execute expressions and all that. So here it says anything inside of this is JavaScript. That is just the information it's telling you. So first of all, I'm going to do a copy paste for my code so we can speed up this build. And then just paste it here. So here, as you can see, there's a JSON stringify. So this is where we're defining what we did inside the load memory. If you remember, when we were defining the contents, where we said JSON.content is an array and all that. So this, we're saying that we received it as a content, the part, the text. So this agent brain is a Gemini, model. So it has a particular structure. So we're telling it, the first prompt we're giving it is that we're giving it a predefined prompt that you are a routing agent, choose which tool to use, choose the website if the query contains any of this, choose blah, blah. So when you go through this is simply telling the AI, the brain of the AI agent to make a decision that when you see something like this, choose a particular tool. When you see here in the number 2, I'm telling you that choose calculator if it's a math operation. You get it? And here is where the JSON.query. So this here, we have JSON.query. This is where our query is going to be. And then says that when in doubt, choose web search. So this will be our default. You can pause the video and try to understand this particular text. And it says after that, this is the response. We're passing a temperature. This temperature thing is very, very important. Depending on the higher a temperature, the more creative your AI, that is your foundation model, this is Gemini, your Gemini can be. But we don't want it to be creative in giving us a response. We want it to be more predictable in picking, in selecting any of these options, web search, calculator, or if it's not that, it should choose something else. You just give us a direct answer here. So we have web search, calculator, choose web search, choose calculator, choose direct answer. And I'm giving a very low temperature on, because we all know that, all these AI foundation models are very, very good at hallucinating. So I'm giving it a lower temperature to tell it that be very specific in what you're picking. If you see anything that looks like a website, pick a website. You don't come up with your own ideas. And this is perfect for this particular one. If you're using a general chatbot, I'll increase the temperature because I want the output to be as unique as possible. And then the output, I'm giving the maximum output tokens to 150, top 0.9, top K 10. And then this is it. And the result is whatever it goes here is going to give you a result here. So we close this as we've already done this. And then we proceed. We don't have to execute this step, but yeah, because we don't need that. Then we go back to our canvas. And next step is going to be called what we call the decision making. So we need another code to make decisions, because here in the agent brain, we're asking it that if you see a particular prompt and you think it's something you need to search the web, go and look for Google search and search the web directly. If you see something that looks like a math problem, go directly, pick a calculator and execute this. If you see something that looks like generate a unique response, give me a direct answer. That is, let the answer come directly from you, a Gemini model. Okay, so we're going to create a decision step, a step which allows us to, if it's A, go to A, if it's B, go to B, if it's C, go to C. So the next is we're going to we're going to be coding. So we look for the code node, we select code in JavaScript. And here, once again, we're going to be adding code for us to understand what's going on here. So here we say run once for all items. We're picking that. Just going to copy paste the code here and then explain it, guys, for you to understand better. So here, this is Gemini's response. So we're saying the input first.json. As you can see, when I hover on it, it gives me details that all these are coming from n8n. Okay, and then JSON. So here it says extract the AI response text. So when we go back to our agent brain, you realize that there was a section for text. So we're saying that extract the AI response text, which inside will have your prompt. Let AI text be equal to, then we try this, that the Gemini responds the candidates, the content, or part. This particular code is how Gemini receives responses on n8n using n8n syntax. And this is, as you can see, this is coming from our agent brain JSON. Okay, and we pass it here. If there's any problem here, we catch the error. You can ignore this one. This saying error does not exist on type console. You can ignore it. It's not a problem for us. We can fix it, but it's not really our priority on this build. So we say AI text is equal to JSON.stringify. So it's going to stringify the response we're getting to Gemini if there's an error. If there's no error, it simply passes this here. Now, let decision. Here we're going to JSON match. Going to match with everything that is here. So you realize that in our prompt, there was a lot of slashes and all that. So it's going to clean this thing up and then it's going to come here. So it's going to clean this up and give us a JSON match. It says if the JSON match is true after removing all the slashes, that is if a prompt was really sent after removing all these, we pass it to decision. If it didn't, we'll say no JSON was found in the response. And then we catch our error. Now, if everything is fine, our action here, now we're here to make the decisions. Our action here is we have direct answer. We have direct answer here. We have web search, and then we have calculator. So our default action is direct answer. That is, give us a response from Gemini's, from Gemini itself. Don't go searching for other resources. Now, it's saying here that if AI.text includes web search, if it includes whatever we're coming with, if it includes web search, do this. Set your action to web search. Set it to lowercase, include search. Now we're saying that if it includes web search, or it includes action web search, or it includes search, let your action be web search. Else, if you send your text into lowercase, if it includes calculator, there's an action in calculator, set your action to calculator. Now this decision is that we pass the action, the reasoning could not pass decision, fallback logic apply. Final answer is action is equal to direct answer. If this particular thing, action is equal to that, if it's true, you simply pass the AI text. Else, you go to null. Now, we load our memory. We call the load memory, that's our previous node. The previous, we're looking for this load memory, and then we pass our original query, blah, blah, blah. So all this is happening to make a decision. Simply put, after Gemini receives whatever it receives, in order to make a decision to decide whether I want to do a calculator action, I want to do a direct answer action, or I just want to go to Google and search for an answer for myself. And we're going to call this, instead of coding JavaScript, we're just going to call this the parser, because this is where we're going to be making our decisions. So this is good. We're not adding any settings, we're just leaving our default settings, and then we go back. So you can see our workflow is coming pretty nicely. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is the action router. Now we've told it what to expect, okay? That when the agent brain receives this prompt, Gemini does this all and gives out its response. The parser is simply saying that if Gemini came out with let me click on this for us to understand. Let's make this bigger. The parser was simply saying that if Gemini outputs anything, this is the expression we're giving to Gemini. If Gemini outputs anything which included web search, or it included calculator, it included whatever, we're passing the decision, we're giving it out that give me a response, give me an output. Now, when it gives you an output here, what do you do based on the output you receive? So we're going to have an action router to make this particular decision, okay? To route it to the right decisions in order to do. So you're going to add a switch node. If the decisions are just two, you can just use an if node. That is if, but here we have three. If it was only two, you can just use an if node for if else. But here we have three options. We have web search, we have calculator, and we have direct answer. So we're going to use switch node to route the items to the right, responses that we want to get. Now here in our switch node, I'm going to call this the action router. And what am I going to? I'm going to add rules, okay, as to what I want inside my action router. So my first rule is I'm going to add, I'm going to put this in a JavaScript expression. Okay. So here I'm going to say, I don't want, we can make it big and come back. It's just a bit too much, but anyway, let's just do this. So as you can see, it's giving me JSON.action. Okay, we close this. And we're saying is equal to, if this is equal to web search. So we're simply saying that if the action, that is the response that comes from our parse decision, if in the JSON.action it has web search, it should do something. What output name do I want to give it? I want to give it output. Let me call it web so that it shows nicely on our flow. Now let's add another routing rule, because remember we have three routing rules. Just going to change this. I'm not going to open the browser, it's not necessary. So JSON.action here. If it equals to calculator, do something. Now the output name, I'm going to call it calculator. Okay, calculator. This is right, so this is wrong spelling. Data. Okay. Then we add the third node, which is our direct answer. We're saying that in our direct answer, which is our third node, let me see what I did there. So we have JSON, if it's equal to calculator and all that. Hold up. Let me show what I did. Okay, this is calculator. So here we still have expression. This is an expression. Same JSON. Oh my god. $JSON, that's action. If this is equal to direct answer, the output name should be direct on that's correct. Direct answer. And then we're going to have a default node in case any of this JSON.action, there's an error somewhere where there's no web search, there's no calculator, there's no direct answer in our action. We just add in a default to it. Okay, so our default, we just don't have any value to it because we're assuming that there's an error. Okay, so we name this simply called default output. Okay, and then we're done with our switch decisions, which is good. And then we go back to our canvas. So as you can see here, simply we start from here, we trigger a node, we receive a prompt from Postman, we load memory, our agent brain is making decisions, Gemini, and then it passes it to this, is making decision whether what I received should be a calculator, whether what the response should be. We should look for a calculator to do it for us. I should give my own answer here, or should I go and search the web? And whatever past decision receives here that, okay, if it's a calculator, do this. If it's not, and when it gets here, it says, okay, I received web search from past decision. Then I execute web search. I received in my action JSON, I received calculator. I'm going to go with this node. I received direct answer. I'm going to go with this node. I received nothing. My default output is here. So now we're going to break down and call various ones to do our actions for us. So I click on web search here, and then I'm going to search for an HTTP request node. And here, if you don't have a Google custom, if you don't have a custom ID from Google, please, as I repeat again, go back to the previous video and see the procedure with which you can get your custom ID. So here we're using a get method because we're receiving from the action router. And then our URL here, this is the URL Google uses for custom searches. We are not adding any authentication, but I'm adding a query parameter and I want to use the fields below. So my key is, this is for my custom search in short. Okay, then I'm going to add the ID. We call it here CX. This is the name. This is a structure that Google expects to see if you're making a custom search. And this ID that I've written here is what you get when you're going through the custom search APIs and then your Google engine IDs and all that. Once again, guys, go to the previous video to see how to generate these IDs and all that. Excellent. So this is simply Google custom search setup. Now the next parameter I'm going to add is Q. We're going to call this Q, and this is where my query is going to go. So I'm just going to make this a bit more visible. JSON.query. And then I'm going to add another one, which is I want to limit the number of responses I get. So if you remember our build with Python, we had a number of outputs that we limited the number of responses that are custom search does. Like when you go on Google and you search for something, you see you get a list of items. You can even have the ability to go to the next page. So we are telling it that in order to speed up whatever we're doing, we're just saying that just give us 5 items as a response. Don't give us more than that. So this is part of the Google custom search query. To understand this better, you can Google and find out how Google handles custom search queries and all that. Or you can also look at our video, how we generated the various ID and then understand better what is going on here. If you have any questions, kindly write in the comment section below and I'll respond to them accordingly. So we don't need headers, we don't need bodies, we're good. Our settings are also good. We're just leaving our default settings. We're not doing anything special there. And now we're good to go. We just go back. So our web search, I just want to change this name from HTTP request to web search. Okay. So our web search is done. It says get from Google, blah, blah, blah. That's it. So our web search is done. And then we're going to our calculator tool. If the question came, it's a mathematical question, you don't have to search the web to give me an answer. You just have to use a calculator to do this. Here we're going to call the code node, select code JavaScript. Okay, and here we're picking run once for all items. And I'm going to paste this code. I'm taking it from my previous build and I'm going to paste it here. As you can see here, we have our input first data, first.json, it goes into the data. We have our expression, search query, our user message, or our search query. Yeah, because we made our user message could be both, can come from either user message here or search query. If you remember, you're following from the beginning. Now try here, we have a clean expression. We're replacing all these slashes and all these numbers and all that with space, because we're dealing with a calculator. We want specific, request to order to give us. We want 2 plus 2, 2 minus whatever. We want mathematical expressions. So if you have anything that is not of that, you just replace it with clean the expression, replace it with an empty string. And we'll say if the clean expression, and then we trim it. If it's equal to an empty, or we trim it and is equal to an empty string, then we throw an error that no valid mathematical expression was found. And then our result is function use strict return clean expression, because we want to have a clean prompt to ask to the calculator to give us a response. And then our 2 results, we have this equals to the result. If there's a problem, I couldn't perform the calculation, please provide a valid mathematical expression like this. Okay, and then our result is null. So in return, it gives us a JSON with the data that we define here. Our 2 results, our calculation results, and the tool used is a calculator. So I'm going to call this calculator 2. And then we're good to go. We go back. Now our next one is the direct answer. So as you can see, it's coming together. Everything is coming together. We have the web search, we have the direct answer here. I just want to make it a bit, clean. Now we have the direct answer here. So I'm going to click on this. This is also going to be using the code node. And we're using JavaScript, guys. So run once for all items JavaScript. Just copy and paste this here. And simply, this is very simple. Direct answer, it simply gets the data to provide them an answer. Direct, it tells us the tool that, it was gotten. Since it was a direct answer from the Gemini, Gemini gives us a response without doing anything special. So we have it here. It could be that it's coming direct answer dot final data dot final answer gives us a response here. If this doesn't have anything, just say providing direct answer from knowledge, and then we're good to go. Change this to direct answer 2. Just gonna call it that. And then our settings, we don't need anything. If you pay attention, you see this Ask AI. If you're writing a code and you're not sure, you can always click on Ask AI to ask the AI any question you want. Okay, I'm going to click on this so it can tell us, we can tell it to generate the code for us. if you don't really know the code to write for a particular task, you have an inbuilt AI within n8n environment to ask it to help you generate code. Okay, all right. So we're going to go back. So now we have our calculator tool, we have our direct answer tool, and then our default output. We're not doing anything there. So we just leave. So now in our web search, the next stage is that we want to format our web search results because we want to have a beautiful output. We don't want, Google adding all the things that it adds from its API, because the API response from Google custom search is very long. So we just want to take what we want and then leave the rest. So here so this will definitely be done with code. So yeah, I know I said that n8n, you can use very little code or none, but this particular build, we're adding code because of how complex it is to understand. But the more you learn about n8n, you realize that there are other ways to this is not the only solution to what I'm doing. There are multiple solutions. They have so many tools that you can use, as you can see here, that you can use for your workflow. So I'm clicking on code, JavaScript. And here again, run once for all items. I'm leaving it there. And then I'm going to copy this and paste my code here. So this is simply formatting our response from our web search. So I'm going to write format search results. Okay, this is not. So if you're doing this, you can pause. Let me just make this bigger. Okay, so this goes down. I think there's no way to make this. Okay, now it's bigger. So you can pause the video and try to look at the structure of it. So let's search response, try search response. If it's not, these try catch are very important for possible errors. So your error handling, your handling errors. If you're a programmer, you know error handling is very integral in code development. So here we're saying get query from action router input if it should have had it from past decision. Okay. So this response is coming from our past, it's telling us a story of what we're doing. Okay, so input data, we have this, our input data query, we want to get the query, that is the response we're getting. And then our items, search response here, dot items, if there's nothing there, just give an empty string, an empty array. Now search context, we define a variable called search context. Now we're saying that if this items and the items.length is greater than 0, that is not returning an empty array, our search context, guys, here are the search results, and then we're looping through it. So we're saying our result index +1, we're picking this, our search context, we're adding to it. So we're adding to our search context. Okay, it's like a string. We're concatenating the string with all the details, and after that we will structure it beautifully and give it to the response to the user. So we have the item title for each of the arrays. So when you get an object in this array, the first object, there's the index, we have the item, the index we're picking from here. And then we have the item dot title of the response. We have in this item, there's a snippet. That's a snippet of the response, not the whole thing. And then we have the link. Sometimes when you search in Google, you have links. Okay. In fact, all the time when you search in Google, you can click on the link to view the particular page. So this link is here. And then our return is, let me lower this. Okay, so you can see it better. So our return here, we have a JSON. What we're sending to the next node, we have JSON, we have our query, our search context is here, and then result count, that is items dot length. That is the length of this particular array. We want to see, because we're asking it to give us 5. So our result count is just ensuring that we're doing the right thing, just to see what is outputting for us. Okay. Now we're done with this. We can close this and then go back to the canvas. So we're done with format search results. The next one is someone asks, why is it that this there's no need for any formatting, guys? Because it's a calculator. It just gives you direct response. The direct answer is giving you a direct answer. There's no format to that. So the next thing I'm going to click on this. I'm adding a node where all these guys will be connected to. And this is a code node. Okay, so here I'm going to build a Gemini prompt. So now we're going into Gemini. We're building a Gemini prompt. We're crafting a beautiful Gemini prompt in order to give us something. Someone is asking about the agent brain where you already using Gemini. You understand as we go along the way. So I'm clicking this and I'm calling this build Gemini prompt. Run once for all items, yes. Then again, you can always ask this AI, how do I build my Gemini prompt? At this step, it can generate your code for you. So this makes working in n8n pretty easy. Okay, so now we have here, a Gemini prompt is simply saying we're writing, I added these, comments to make our work more easier. So you can pause this. Let me open this. The build, you can pause this and see this code and then you can type it. Now it says get data directly from the previous node. The format, search results, the calculator, our direct answer. So the response that we're getting from the previous node. Now we have the data, the query, the search context, if you remember. We have the calculator results. Now we have our prompt. Now we're saying that if the search context, we trim it and it's not equal to an empty string, we provide a prompt to Gemini and say, you are a helpful AI assistant. Answer the following questions using the search results provided. Be concise and accurate. So we've received search results and then we're feeding the results to Gemini again to give us better, to refine whatever we've obtained. Our question is in the query, which we got here, and then our search results, we're passing it. All this is part of the prompt, guys. As you can see, the prompt, this is where it ends. This is the prompt, this is where it ends. So this is the if. So these are search results, we're passing it, and we're saying, provide a clear, well-structured answer based on these search results. Now, we're saying that else if calculation results, that's the response came from the calculator. We're saying you're a helpful AI assistant. The user asks the query. The calculation result is provide a clear answer incorporating this result. And then the third one is the direct answer, where we're saying that else, if all this is failing, if none of it, if it's not a web search, it's not a calculation, and it's a direct answer coming from our agent's brain, coming from our previous node that we're looking at. You are a helpful assistant. Answer the following questions concisely and accurate. It's very important to remind your chatbot in this section here. We are in the chatbot section to do the right thing. So the question, even though it will still hallucinate if it wants to. So question is, but this is very important to minimize the percentage of hallucination. So the question here, we pass the query, and then at the end, we return a JSON, which has our prompt and then our query. So we're moving to the next section. So let's close this. This is done. We're not adding any settings, guys. So we go back, and this prompt here, this one we're going to connect this also to this. We're going to connect this also to this, because remember that this code caters for this, for all of them, not only for formatted results. Okay, so we're good with this. And then our next stage here is we're going to call our Gemini API, because we're preparing a prompt to be fed to Gemini API. All right. Okay. So we're using Gemini API first. Someone may say, why are we using Gemini API twice? Because here in the agent's brain, we're using Gemini API to think, to decide what do we do? What do we do? And here we've gotten our response and everything, and then we're passing a prompt to Gemini API saying that this is what we have. Can you make it better? You understand? Okay. So now we have our Gemini API. We're going to click on this, and then we're calling an HTTP response node because we're going to be calling we're making an HTTP request. And this is, as I said, is a post method because we're giving it something to the body. And here, I'm just going to paste this. We're not doing it like the previous one where we added the parameters. It's the same, guys. It's the same. Because you can see the key here, the API key here, or you can simply click on send query parameters and then add key, and then the value is the same, guys. Nothing special here. And then our body, we need to send our body because it's a post request. Our type here, we're using raw. Our content type is application JSON. Application JSON. So here, after we're done with this, our body is going to be an expression, obviously. Let me just expand this to make it more. You can see here, you see our steps here. We have everything is here. So if you even want something from your previous whatever, execute previous notices schema, we can click it here and then, continue. But we're not there yet. Let's paste this here. This is obviously inside JavaScript. So we're saying here that JSON.stringify our content, our parts. Then now we're giving it, look at this temperature now. Our first temperature in our agent's brain, if you remember, was 0.05. Now we're increasing the temperature because we don't want it to be, this is not a section where we're making it to make a decision that use if, else, if, or else. We're saying that now is your time to shine, Gemini. Be creative and give us a beautiful response based on what we've fed onto you. And we're increasing our maximum output tokens to 1024. Top P here 0.8, top K 40. Let me know in the comment section below if you want to know about top P and top K. I want us to finish this build as quickly as possible. So now that we're done with this, we close this and we're good to go. There's nothing to add in our settings. We'll talk about the settings thing later in another post. So here I'm going to call it the Gemini API request, because this is where we have our foundation. Would say that this is where the beauty of everything we've done is going to be crafted in a nice way and sent to us. So we're good to go. We go back to the canvas. We click on back to canvas. You see our workflow is coming out nicely. We try and reduce this so we can see it better. Okay, so now our workflow is coming out nicely. Then our last step, guys, don't worry, we're coming to an end. Our last step is we're going to craft it nicely so it gives us a beautiful, output and all that. Let me move myself here. Our last step, your guess is as good as mine. It's a code, yes. We're going to format it nicely and present it to the user. We click on code in JavaScript, and here I'm going to copy and paste from my previous build and put it here. Let me expand this so you can see it better. Okay, and move myself here. So we have try const Gemini output. This is our Gemini response. Our answer is here. If there was something in candidate, or something candidate is an array, the first item in candidate. We go to contents, the parts, the text. We get the answer here. Gemini.text. If it's not that, we say Gemini.text or response, no response was generated. Now, original query, load memory. This is coming from our load memory node. First, the JSON.query. Parse decision. This is coming from our parse decision node. So your names here are important. The names that I give to every node, I'm using it here. So if I gave the wrong name to the wrong node, when it gets here, it will throw an error because it's looking for this particular node. It's looking for the query in this particular node and it can't find it. As you can see, this is the original query from the load memory from the beginning. And then we have the decision, the parse decision area, the parse decision node is looking for the past decision data. So the names you give to your node, as I said, is very important because we're using them here. Okay, so the tool used, we have the past decision.action. The action, was it a calculator action? Was it a web search action? Or was it a direct answer or unknown? That is, it used the last default. We return unknown here. And then we return success. Return a JSON, which success is true. The query, the original query that we asked from the beginning, we show it to the user. We have our answer here. And then the tool that we use so that the user gets to see that, was this a calculator tool that was used or was it not? Then we have a timestamp just to tell us, the date and all that. If this doesn't work for us, we just return an error that success was false, then we provide the error so we can debug, and then the message is that failed to process response. So that is it. So now that our flow is done, we're going to go ahead and test our flow. Okay, so first, before we move to Postman, we're going to start. So we're going to click on execute workflow and see how the node flows. But at each stage, it will be waiting for something, but just for, testing purposes to see if it really wants to wait for something. And I almost forgot, guys. Let me move this here. I almost forgot this particular thing that you see here, this inactive. In order to make use of the production URL, this has to be set to active. Else you have to keep going back, forth and back, front and back, always like going back and forth, trying to execute your workflow manually. So when I click on inactive, I click here active, you can see you can now make calls to your production webhook URL. These executions will not show up immediately in the editor, but you can see them in the execution list if you choose to save executions. Got it. Okay, it's telling you, okay, set up error notifications, customize how this is production behavior. We're not interested in all this for now. So this is saved, and now we're going to go into Postman to test this particular build. Let me first click on execute, waiting. So as you can see, it's waiting for a trigger. Wait, first copy. You see, it wrote here that it's waiting for you to call the test URL. Why is it saying test? Because I clicked the execution, I triggered the execution here and not outside. So let's start with our test URL. Let me just copy this test URL. Okay. And then I'll search, I'm going to call Postman on my computer. Now we have Postman. Let me just open another URL. As you can see, I was testing here in the previous build and all that. Let me see what I was sending as a body. We're using our test one. We'll test it later with the production. So I click on send. I'm going to minimize this because I want to show you guys how this whole thing works. Let me minimize this. Okay, I want to show you guys how the flow works when we start execution, how it looks like here. So I'm just going to click on send here. And then it says that webhook is not registered. Click execute workflow. Okay, so I guess the execution stopped. We're using tests. So I'm going to click on execute workflow. I'm waiting for a trigger, then I'm clicking on send. So now look at this. This is beautiful. So here we got a stop here, error in workflow. We go here and it says cannot read properties of undefined 0. It says line 0. So here we can see that we have an error here. Let's go into this particular node and then it gives you the error, cannot read properties of undefined line 0, which means that this particular post that we give has a problem. So I'm going to go to my previous post and just copy this. We want to be sure the problem is from the query we're passing. I do suspect it's from there, but let's be extra sure. Okay, so I'm just going to paste this here, and then my request, I'm just going to say what is latest in tech now. Remember, we're using the test. We're using the test for this. We're not using a production URL, so you have to go back. So you see the downside. You have to go back to execute workflow. But now I want to use a production. Okay, where I don't have to keep clicking and clicking and clicking. So I'm just going to go here and copy my production URL. Copied, go back, so I don't have to keep clicking on this. So I'm going to go all right. This inactive, yeah, it's active. Now I can click on this. So as you can see, it's not showing any, but it's going through the phase. So now we got a response true. What is latest in tech now? It says provided search results. It gave us responses. What's latest is generative AI, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm going to go back and use a test. So you guys get to see how the flow, let's use a test URL. So you guys get to see how the flow works. It's only with a test URL that you get to see these marks, green, red, or whatever. So I'm changing this URL to the test. You can see you're using webhook test now. Now I have to click on execute workflow. So I click on execute and then I click on send. So here we're going to see it. Now it's going through it. This has passed. This has passed. So it means that our question was a web search, and then it says workflow executed successfully. So the tool used here, we can see here, is web search. A success is true, and then it gave us this. And it says that web search results provided. I'm saying latest technology trends from sources like Wired, Reuters, BBC Innovation. This is doing a Google search because it used this particular node. Okay, now let's ask a calculator type of question, which means that the first error we got was mainly because of our format. Because in our code, we said it should expect content, it should expect parts. We're searching for all these in order to get our text. Let's play with it and see if we're going to get a calculator response. So let me write calculate. Let's see. And then I'm going to click on execute workflow again. Let's see. It's going. Okay. All right. So as you can see. Okay, guys. So the issue that we're having, whereby we're getting this 500 in. So the issue that we're having getting this 500 internal server error was from this our past decision. Yeah. The code, it's always about the code. The code was, you can see these reds and then these reds. So I asked Claude for help. I could have asked this AI. I simply asked Claude and Gemini also for help, and it gave me a better response. The problem is I need to ensure that everything here is working well before executing there. So I need an if condition. So I'm just going to undo this code and paste this code so we can understand what I was missing here. So you can see I'm here checking here that if all these are done well, yeah, it's still complaining because we haven't run the code yet. So all these have to be checked before I call this particular code. Else, if it's not done, I simply check else Gemini response or text. Just give me this else if content. So let's test this and see what it's going to give us. I'm hoping it gives us a direct answer option. So we get to see how our direct answers look like. So I'm asking you to list the 7 wonders of the world. Let's go into execution mode and then let's click on send. Let's see how it behaves. So we are here, load, agent brain, parse decision. Oh, this is beautiful. So we get here, direct answer. It goes directly to Gemini prompt, Gemini API, and the code. So you can see here our response here. Let me enlarge in this. We have list the 7 wonders of the world. See, the 7 ancient wonders of the world is Great Pyramid of Giza, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, Statues of. This is interesting. This answer is very, very, very interesting because I was thinking the Taj Mahal. Well, at least we hear this answer is not answering anyway. But either way, this is AI. I mean, we all know what's up. So basically, that is all for today. It was a long build. I'm sorry, guys. It was an absolute long build, but we get to see the beauty of n8n. Let me know in the comment section below. Would you like to test Zapier also, or do you want more tutorials on using n8n? Because this is a very powerful tool. It all centers, it's like programming. It all centers on you writing the right code to execute to get the right responses and all that. It's an automation tool. You can use this for all type of things. Email automations. You can use this for research automations. Not only AI agents. It's an automation tool, so you can use it for automating all kinds of tasks that you would like to do. Drop down in the comment section below. Let me know what you learned today and what you think could be improved on this particular build. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell so that you're notified whenever we have an upload. Have a wonderful day and see you guys. Ciao.